presentation, so it will be available along with the slides. The audio is going to be muted in the background so that we can hear our presenter today, but I do want everyone to chat in with their questions. Whether it's at the end of a slide or at any time you have it, there's a little chat box in GoToWebinar on the right side. You can click that, type in your question, and we'll make sure we try to address it. And the point of this is that we want this to be participative. The goal of this is not just for us to have a presentation here, but really for you guys to be able to ask questions and get answers to some of those questions too. So now, just before I introduce our distinguished guest today, a little bit about OOHLALA and what we do. We are the complete student experience management system. And we're built with integration, efficacy, and analytics in mind. So what does that mean? It means we provide for students a one-stop shop for all their services and resources in a mobile platform, and at the same time giving administrators tools and resources on the back end through web panels and through access to the app to intervene, assess, engage, and really manage the student experience system. As a result, we have over 175 partners and counting all over the globe, mostly in North America. We're proud to call Mohawk Valley Community College one of our partners. And one thing that we love to hear is feedback from some of our partners, and especially from the students themselves. And 90% of the students that we've surveyed have recommended the apps to their friend, and as a result, we've been featured in a few places. But really, this presentation isn't about us. It's about Jean-Leandre and his institution and some of the work that they've been doing. So just so that you know about Jean-Leandre, he's currently the Director of Student Engagement Outreach at Mohawk Valley Community College. Previously, he worked as the Associate Director for Student Affairs at SUNY Bronx Educational Opportunity Center at the Bronx Community College. And prior to that, he was also a case manager at SUNY North Bronx. He's well versed in this field, comes with a lot of experience, having studied at Mohawk Valley Community College, then went on to get his Bachelor of Sciences, and then his Master's in Human Services in Executive Leadership from Liberty University as well. I've had the pleasure of working and talking with Jean for quite a while, trying to put this presentation together for you. I'm very excited with what he's going to present today. And without further ado, I am now going to hand the presentation off to him. Jean is going to take it over from here. I just want to make sure. Hi, Jean. Hello? It appears Jean is not on audio. Sorry about this. Let me just double check to make sure his audio is working. Okay. So John's just having a slight audio issue. I think he just needs to enter his PIN in and he should be good to go. Hi, John. I just want to make sure you can hear us here. I see Jean is there, but we're just not hearing his phone right now. Hi, Jean. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Okay. Glad to have you. Sorry about the confusion there, folks.
All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Again, My name is Jean Leandre. I'm currently the Director of Student Engagement and Outreach at Mohawk Valley Community College. I've actually been here for about a year. I've been here for about a year. And one of the first things that I was tasked with is trying to create two-way communication with students. So that's what I was tasked with. Hold on one second. Hey, Dar, I
Yes.
don't believe that I could control the PowerPoint.
Oh, let me just make you a presenter. Just give me 1 second here. And there you go. So you should be able to click and maneuver it now. Just if you press on the key, you should be good.
Was that me?
I think that may have been me, although I have given you access. But I can change the slides for you.
Okay. All right, so just to give you a little bit of background of Mohawk Valley Community College, roughly we are about 6,000 full-time and part-time students. The goal is just like every other school, just trying to do our best to be accessible and provide students opportunity to get high-quality education, and so they could be successful in whatever their endeavors might be in life. What really makes us unique, I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the Mohawk Valley area. There is a lot of schools. I believe there's within 20 miles or so, there's roughly about 6 other schools. But we are located in Utica, New York, and a lot of people see us as the community's college. So we really believe in assisting the community because the community is the individuals that we serve.
Excellent.
So really honestly, again, I'm about a year in, and roughly about my second day of working for MVCC, I received a phone call from OOHLALA, a very interesting gentleman, and he was talking to me about OOHLALA and all the different things that OOHLALA could potentially do to engage our students. I told them, you know what, this is my second day. I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing. Please give me a phone call back at the summer. And he definitely did. Around May, he gave me a call. And I was at my position now for about 5 months. And I quickly began to realize that although this is a great school, we do a lot of things well. What we don't do well when we talk about student engagement and what entails is basically trying to create a two-way communication a stream from faculty, staff, administration to students, and to students being able to communicate to us. I cannot see everyone, but I'm pretty sure that's basically some of the challenges that you guys are actually facing. And what ends up happening when we create different flyers, we send students email, if they're not able to respond back to us and know that we're actually taking into consideration their responses, that actually creates where we would say at MVCC that moment of disengagement. If you are creating a lot of different events, if you're creating a lot of different workshops, and you're not giving students an opportunity to do pre and post conversation about it, they're not necessarily engaged. It's almost a form of having a shared responsibility to the event that's going on and to the workshop that's actually going on. So what I did was I discussed a lot of different challenges that we faced, and I noticed how OOHLALA and the app could actually be a problem solver for us. Next slide, please. I quickly realized that it was one of the best decisions that I could have made for the institution. Roughly, I am underneath the umbrella of student affairs. And again, like I had mentioned to you guys, we have about 6,000 students. And my main goal was to try to create some buy-in, not only purchase the app, but actually making it one of the platforms that we could use to engage students, and again, trying to reach the two-way communication stream, not one-way, because a lot of schools already do one-way good, but two-way is how you truly engage students. And I just want to share some facts with you, and this was within the first few months. This was within the first few months. We had roughly about 1,800 downloads. 1,800 downloads since we implemented the app. We had about 109 attendants scheduled on the app, and we had about 5,000 different campus activities. And now, when I say different campus activities, I'm referring to students talking with each other on the app, students liking something that we post, and also students engaging each other. So again, we had students engaging each other, us engaging the students, students engaging us, and basically an open platform where everybody it created this sense of everyone had ownership on the campus, not the faculty, not just the faculty, not just the staff, not just administration, but students started being included in the mix, and there was an open virtual reality where everybody was part of the campus conversation. Next slide, please. One of the key things that I quickly realized about the app, the app allowed us to create a two-way communication stream where students could get in contact with administration, administration could get in contact with students. One of the things that I will highlight a little bit later on in this presentation is it has an instant messaging, where if I was trying to get in contact with a student and I emailed them and I couldn't hear from them, or I gave them a phone call and their phone was disconnected, I could just hop on the app, send them a message, and they could send me back a message, and we could reschedule at that moment. Now, I send them an actual email, I wait for them to email me back, and 2 days go by because they're not readily checking their email. Even if they do have a smartphone, unlike us professional staff, they do not download the Outlook, or if you guys are using Google, to actually be able to respond to you right at the moment. The other great thing about the app in regards to being able to contact students in the immediate facet is there's different groups that you could create on the app, and students could really communicate with faculty members that are part of certain clubs that they are interested in, and they could have that wide variety of communication. Within our student congress alone, we actually started creating opportunities for individuals, if they want to, that they could vote. If for one reason or another they cannot attend the meeting, they could actually go ahead and they could actually vote right on the app. So another key thing when you talk about students not being able to really feel that their opinions are actually being heard. One of the biggest challenges that we had here on campus is I came on, everybody was talking about we have to do better with our suggestion box. We have to do better with our suggestion box. There's different events. We need to figure out what the students are interested in before we actually hire these performers to come in, the comedians, the mimes, so on and so forth. And ever since we implemented the app, we realized the campus feed, the campus feed, which is another feature of the app. Everybody has the campus feed. It actually became the heartbeat of the institution. We could go on there and post anything that we want, and students could respond to it. One of the things that I had to be able to talk with some of the other administrators on the campus is, once we start using the campus feed, we have to be open to actually let it be the heartbeat, because not everything on the campus feed is going to be positive. But the way that I was able to discuss this with my colleagues is, if it's not positive, then just because they're saying it on the campus app doesn't necessarily mean it's not something that they're not saying anyway. So we actually kind of use that platform for us to be able to show students all the different implementation that we were doing based on their feedback. And because we was able to flip that, it doesn't necessarily matter if you put something good on it. You could put something bad on it. We were able to show them through the heartbeat that if they have a concern, and sometimes even a complaint, we are here, we are listening. It's another medium that they could use, and we will then take the necessary steps to actually change that. And because we saw the campus feed as that type of tool, we rarely see any negative on there now. At the beginning there was, but ultimately it gave students, from what they say, an opportunity to really just express themselves and really connect with the other individuals around campus that are actually the decision makers, and they actually seen the change actually happen. If they were complaining about maybe not necessarily having salt on not necessarily the campus ground, but soon as you turn the corner, what we did was we saw it on the heartbeat and we made the changes.
So, Sean, let me
yeah.
ask you a question here then, because this is something that, we've seen at a lot of institutions where there's almost a hesitation about, what is going to be said on the app itself. And do you find that everyone on your campus sort of came around the same way you did?
Yeah, at the beginning, we'll talk a little bit about the implementation, I believe. But yes, at the beginning, there were some hesitation. I think I could speak for all educators. And when I say that, sometimes you could create something really great when you're talking about social media, if you're talking about Facebook, Twitter, so on and so forth. But there's always this fear of, what about if someone says something bad? And I think the key thing is, if they're saying something bad on your Twitter page, that's something, again, as an administrator, you should take that, have a little bit of ownership to it, because it could be a genuine concern, and being able to use that suggestion, because oftentimes they're not going to take the second to walk to your office and actually let you know that they have a concern. Make it easier for them. After all, a lot of people don't like this. They are the customers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are the customers. And what ends up happening is, once they actually see that you are making the changes, they have a vested interest in making sure that everything at the school is running correctly, just like you do as a faculty and or as a staff member. So what I saw was my colleagues actually changing from not necessarily think this is a great idea, having it being so open, to asking me all the time, hey, can you ask them how they feel about the new walkway that we're creating?
Yeah, that's so wonderful to hear, that the buy-in sort of just grows from people recognizing that being part of the conversation is more important than being sheltered from it.
Yeah, because again, the key thing is, and one of the things that I'm going to keep reiterating is, the conversations are already happening. So it's really trying to see whether you want to be part of the conversation, or you want to pretend like the conversation is not happening.
Yeah. So this is also a good point to maybe take a second here and see if anyone from the participants has a question. We're going to give a sort of 10-second break here. So if you have a question on anything you've seen so far, feel free to chat it in. There's a chat box on the right. You can type in your question there, and we can take a look at those. So I'm just going to give a few seconds here, see if people have questions. Okay. Okay, well, there's nothing so far, Jean, so I think you've been very, very clear and articulate, so I think people are looking forward to hearing more, so let's soldier on.
All right, the next slide, please. What we found was, again, underneath student engagement and outreach, there's 6 different departments. There's 2 grant programs, New York State grant programs, that's STEP and C-STEP. There's student activities, the Student Association, College Connection, and Magnet Bridge. Again, Magnet Bridge and College Connection are 2 high school programs. And what we thought was, and most educators are actually guilty of doing this, is we do a good job, I have to admit, at the college we do a good job, and I think most schools do a great job at creating events that are diverse, interesting, fun, educational, so on and so forth. But then they wonder, why aren't the students coming? We posted it up on the right board. We have it all over our TVs. We email it. We tell it. We do table tents, so on and so forth. And what I noticed was, in the years that I've been working in education, in the area of student engagement, is we've become so adamant that we are always right in the mediums that we are using. Sometimes we are blind to see that we are inundating students with information. The board that we use to push flyers up, they're not paying attention to it anymore because there's just so many flyers on it. The table tents, they're actually in the cafeteria because they want to eat. Using the bathroom stalls, they're basically don't even want to read these things anymore because that's not the medium that they're using. They're on their Snapchats. They want things to come to their phones, but we are guilty at just wanting to deliver it in the methods that we always use to deliver it. So what the actual app has become, it became a one-stop shop for all events, services, and resources on campus. Literally, anyone wants to deliver a message to students, they would either email my office if they wanted to come in a form of a push messaging, or if they want to just post up the information themselves via their individual app username. I recommend that if it's not necessarily a big messaging. And literally what we've noticed within the past semester, and that's key right now, I want to let you guys know the app grew so much. We've only been, we only implemented the app, I believe we started being live in September. So the app has become the one-stop shop for all events, services, resources for students. We have our clubs. We have the student affairs offices with the locations, because we found that students just basically say it's easier to just hop on the app, look through where the location is, and then basically go there. Made available where they are already spending their time. Again, students are on their phone all the time. And I actually had someone say to me, well, if you basically assume that every student is going to have some type of a smartphone, you know, you might be the person that's actually advocating for a tool that might disengage students. And what I came to realize, and please let me know if I am wrong, that almost every student has some type of a smart device. At my college, you might have a student that potentially might have their services turned on, but we have free Wi-Fi. So whenever they're on campus, they are connected somehow, some way. And when they're at home, they're not connecting with the emails that we're sending them. They're hopping on their smart device and they're looking at all the information, whether it's information about MVCC or personal information.
So, Jean,
The great thing about, yes.
yeah, we just had a couple of questions come in on these topics. So one was, who had to approve the decision to bring this onto your campus? Did it go all the way to the top? What was the level of leadership required?
It went all the way to the top, and to be real honest with you, it's the best thing to do, because what you don't want to do is be an office of silo. Again, I oversee the Office of Student Engagement and Outreach. I am underneath the umbrella of a dean, and after the dean is the vice president. They are very much so supportive, and I began the conversation with the dean. And again, once the dean got involved, he basically got everybody involved at his level, and so on and so forth, and the vice presidents got involved. And the reason why it was so important, because you want the other departments to buy into this. You don't want to have a silo where you're saying you're engaging students virtually and you are the only campus entity, campus department that's on the app, because questions will arise about career services.
Mm-hmm.
Questions will arise about admissions. So to answer your question directly, I went through multiple levels, but from my experience, I would say that's the best way to go about doing it, because then while you go through multiple levels, they might have a question and or a concern that you should know about. And if you're able to answer their questions and or concern, it will create buy-in. And when you're trying to create the app, have different resources available, you're not blindsiding them. You're actually just saying, hey, remember about the app that we were talking about? I want to highlight your department.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. And then we have another one here with regards to the student government election. And it says, would you use the app for students to vote in absentia for their student government election? And if so, how do you verify that they're registered students? So just on the student registration, I would just point out that institutions have the option of having the app closed off only to those people that have a valid institution email address. And Jean, if I'm not mistaken, your institution has enabled that, correct?
Yes, and I think that's probably part of the question. One of the features of the app, and I recommend that everybody does it this way. Again, every institution has different needs, but just to give you a little bit about the process, OOHLALA does a great job in being a partner. I've asked them 1,000,001 questions, and probably 1,000,000 of it was probably the same question, just questioned. I changed it a little bit because I just had concerns at the beginning. So in any case, they are a partner, and one of the things that we discussed was whether to have the app open or closed. And we wanted to have a campus app. That's what the distinguish is. We didn't want to be on Facebook because we were already on Facebook and everybody's on Facebook. We didn't want to do Twitter. We did Twitter. Everybody's on Twitter. When students come to MVCC, they could say, oh, man, there's a campus app. If I want to talk to a classmate, I know they're on the campus app, and nobody else is going to be there. So that's actually, it's a commodity. So the process is, to be able to have access to the campus app, you have to be a registered student with a valid email. So therefore, if any club and or organization, not only your student association, any club, the Caribbean Club, we just approved the Knitting Club, if they wanted to have some type of an election and or something that they needed to vote on, they could say from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Friday, anyone that wants to put their opinion and or vote on this subject, all they have to do is log in, go to that specific group because you could just group the clubs, which we have. Actually, this is the actual slide. You see the different clubs that we have: Angus, Aviation, Billiards. You could actually post a time and tell everybody, whoever is part of the club, all they have to do is go on there and actually vote at that time. And I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. Excellent. So just in the interest of time, let's continue moving on. So I believe the next part was about oversight and global sort of viewership.
Yeah, to be, again, honest with you guys, because I want to be able to provide as much feedback. I do not work for OOHLALA. I actually think, I just want to put it out there, they're not giving us any discounts, so on and so forth. So I had a lot of concerns, and I hope to be able to answer your questions. Literally, I was a little bit worried about who's going to have access to information. Would I be able to administer the app 110%? And I was a little bit nervous about, do I want another job responsibility bullet added on to my my job description? And I was able to work out with OOHLALA where I have total control, and they're there on a supporting role. So I could turn on the app, turn off the app if I need to. I could reach out to my liaison and ask her to do that. I could change anything in the immediate sense if I want to, if it's an emergency, or I could send them an email and they will respond back quickly. They have my cell phone number in case things are happening, and I have their direct number. We've created certain things that I could put on the email, because everybody's busy. We've created, if I put urgent on the email subject line, it's something that needs to be answered in the immediate sense, because we all know social media is in the immediate sense. So just in regards to like global oversight, in regards to effectiveness, if this is something that the campus should be doing, MVCC, in our relationship with OOHLALA, we have a global oversight, and we actually use OOHLALA as a support mechanism. So it's almost like I've hired another staff member that's there to support in regards to the oversight and the effectiveness of the app. Next slide, please.
Sure.
One of the most important things, and we're just implementing it now, OOHLALA has a scanning mechanism. And this is important to me because, as we know, as enrollment is decreasing, we have to figure out what's working and what's effective. And the cool trick about their actual tracking system is it sends, if you turn on the tracking system, which basically every event that you put on the app, and just another cool thing, there's a lot of cool things. We don't physically have to do it. This is pulled right from our website. So if you have a location on your website that you already put all of your events in, you don't have to duplicate. You could just ask them to see if they could just streamline that right in. And if you don't already have that, if you have it in a Word format, you could send it to them and they'll put it up for you. So now every event on the website, you just click one button and you say you want to track the event. When students come in, they have their smartphone, you scan it, and what that ends up happening is it'll let you know how many students actually came on the app, and right after the event is over, it sends them an email letting them know what they thought about the event. Nobody wants to do a paper evaluation. I've seen schools where they do that. Nobody wants to do a paper evaluation anymore. They want to be able to use one equipment to be able to stay engaged with the college. So what we're able to do with this, the actual tracking mechanism, not only show that these students are actually going, they could actually post different comments right on the event, let you know out of the stars how that event was, and they could actually leave a comment after the event. So what you have is 3 levels. You have pre the event, they could start talking about it. You have during the event, and then you have after the event. Next slide, please.
John, this was just the example, I guess, of what you were talking about, right? With a student giving their qualitative feedback, and you can see all of the quantitative feedback that they've given as well. And I guess one of the questions that we just got here is one I think everyone's going to be asking about is, how do you intend to use something like this?
I'm sorry, what was the question? You cut off for a little bit.
Yeah, the question just came up, and I think it's one that everyone's thinking about right now. Is like, how do you intend on using this kind of functionality?
Oh, again, I just literally finished up my budget for the 17 and 18. Again, I'm talking realistically here, and yes, the budget is part of the conversation. There is something called the advocacy report that you will be able to talk with your liaison, and it's in a detailed report that talks to you a little bit about how individuals are using the app. But on a day-to-day basis, what I use it for, what potential schools could actually use it for, if we have a comedian coming in, we could actually tell everybody on the app to go ahead and actually tell what types of jokes are they into. And when the comedian actually comes, we could actually let them know this is what the students' expectations are. If we have a big workshop coming and the presenter comes in at the beginning, we could actually tell them, hey, look, people are logging in on the app, and they really found this theory that you're going to talk about interesting, but they really wanted to know more about how you feel about X, Y, and Z. So it actually gives them an opportunity, and your school an opportunity, to really engage students on multiple levels where you could actually tailor the conversation during the event. And also, instead of us just saying that to other administrators and to other faculty and staff, that students are attending these types of events, attending these types of workshops, feel a certain way about this change that we made based on what we thought was good. You have detailed information about how they feel on a 5-star level. You have detailed information about what they actually wrote in the evaluation, and you have detailed information that says out of all your events, there's an average of 50 to 60 people that attend your events. Those are quantitative and qualitative measures that you could have a bigger conversation in regards to whether your departments are working. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, excellent. So just in the interest of time, because we are getting some questions, we're going to move on and try and get through to the end so we can get to the Q&A part. Jean, so it's kind of just back to you.
Yeah, and again, guys, it's very hard this is my first kind of conference call like this that I was a panelist. So I'm going to try to go through this, what I've learned, but please feel free to send Haydar in the email, and I'm definitely open to answering more questions based on a person that just went through this. So what I've learned was the key thing, to be real honest with you, you have to get campus buy-in. If you are a school that doesn't necessarily think they're going to get campus buy-in, which I was like, oh man, I got to invite people from IT. I think this is actually becoming too big. You could ask OOHLALA to help you do and tailor different workshops about implementation and take different ideas and different concerns to then tailor the app. So that's what I've learned. The need to actually engage students, and again, I repeat, to have that open two-way communication is so important at this level in doing our day and age. Students could be your best advocate if they feel connected to the student, to the school and the student body. We have students discussing with their professors what's going on. We have students going to shows that their professors are actually doing off campus, discussing it. And just to kind of let you know, with the app, we created 4 days on campus that's trending. Tuesdays is Transfer Tuesdays, where students post on the app about where they're thinking about transferring to. We are a 2-year college. So we've actually created days to engage more students. Fridays is Study Fridays. Again, the ultimate goal is to try to get students engaged and committed and actually in their pursuit of their education. Saturdays is selfie Saturdays, where they'll post up a selfie of what they're doing, and Sundays is Sports Sundays. And the reason why we did that, we've seen how important it is to actually initiate the conversation and let them get more engaged. So really have fun with the app. It's literally the heartbeat of the college. At the beginning, I had to make sure that I was cognizant in regards to what the procedures would be, really make OOHLALA work for their money, in a sense. They have some great suggestions. Remember, this is not the first time that they're doing this. They have multiple schools that's already in the relationship, so they have great suggestions. Don't start from scratch. Talk to them, have a conversation. They actually truly enjoy what they do, and they take their business really, really seriously. They want to hear from you. They're really good at providing feedback, whether or not you like it, but it's all for the betterment of the app and making sure that you're engaging the students. Those are really the lessons that I've learned. Really try to create a shared vision of what this app is for. Really, once you have that shared vision, implementing it, creating new ways to engage students, and don't be afraid to work with OOHLALA in a sense of making sure that you're covering all your bases. You know, one of the first things that I talked about with them was FERPA, and once we actually talked about the deal, it really included and made sure that they understood how important FERPA was for me. Next slide, please. Looking for, looking for the future, I'm looking forward to actually seeing if there's more schools in the area that actually thinks about getting this app, because then we could create, you know, best practices. There's no new ideas, that's regular shared ideas. We're trying to use this as an intervention tool to see how we could use this app, which we're already starting. Use this app to let everybody know when it's time to register, when it's time to look at your midterm grades. So the focus of the app is engagement, and as everybody knows, engagement, you have to look at it from a holistic point of view. Although I highlighted a lot of the different fun things that we're doing on the app, we are in the process of actually making it into an educational tool as well. Next slide.
Excellent. So I think that brings us I think that brings us pretty much to the end here. I do want to say thank you to Jean for taking the time today and really like talking about your experience, not just in implementing an app, but really in addressing some of those higher level problems that are not limited to just your department. I think it's always about, you know, how do we help the student? And students aren't limited to a single department. They experience the institution as a single entity, and so we have to talk to them as a single entity as well and make sure we break down our silos to give a student sort of that holistic, complete experience we're talking about. Now we have a few questions here, and we have about 10 minutes for Q&A. Before we get into these round of questions, I do just want to put up some information here. So if you are interested in what you've learned about today and you want to have a conversation with us, I would encourage you to give us a ring or shoot us a line. We'd love to just hear about how you're addressing these challenges on your campus, how we could possibly provide solutions to some of those questions, like, you know, how do you extract student ROI out of your events and services? How do you get oversight and ownership on the communications that are taking place on your campus? And how do you create that two-way dialogue with students? So these are just some of the questions, you know, we've been getting from other VPs and other institutions. So if those are questions that are sort of plaguing you, feel free to give us a ring and let's have that conversation. Also, I'm happy to be a liaison for Jean as well. So if you have any particular questions that don't get answered today, I will try to be on him to get a few answers back for you. But in the meantime, let's jump into some of these questions here now. So first off, we got one asking about how you evaluate the effectiveness of the app. Jean, I'll let you say that for your institution first.
Yeah, I think you have to go back to one of the biggest problems that I was facing is we were trying. It's twofold, and I'm going to keep it actually a lot of different ways that you could evaluate the effectiveness. But to me, really, key thing it's twofold. One, are we able? The first question I had was, are we able to communicate to students, and students openly being able to communicate to us? When I started here, not so much. I mean, we have 50-50. At times, we send students email, they wasn't necessarily responding, or the call to action was not necessarily being answered. Now we have a platform where we're actually seeing the difference. And again, not necessarily based on what we think, we have documented data. So to me, that's effectiveness. And the second point that I wanted to make in regards to that question is, now because we know students are engaged in the app, how do we not make it just fun? We are currently working with OOHLALA and trying to figure out different, once you review your efficacy report, trying to see where they actually go on the app, you could then create different initiatives in regards to registration, midterm grades, any type of initiative that your campus is starting or already started that you want feedback from students, you could then have that data, and the data itself is what uh, determines whether the app is effective. In my opinion, for the two things that I wanted to do with the app in regards to my office's strategic plan, it's actually meeting our goals, and it's really just to be connected with the students. I'm not sure if I answered the question.
I think it covered a significant portion of it, especially for your institution. And I think that's the key point is,
Yeah, I think that's what I was missing. I didn't, like, for me, what we were missing was the dialogue. We often talked, again, for my institution, we often was able to talk in regards to how we're doing with the different stuff that we're doing for the students, but we were lacking the students' piece, the students' response and the students' opinions.
right. And just to add some data to the conversation as well, what Jean and his institution just implemented, we have data from other schools that has shown when they conducted end-of-year surveys or tried to elicit student feedback, the response rate on those surveys was typically between 9 to 15%. Some very, very high-performing institutions would generate about a 20% response rate from surveys. What we found by providing the feedback within the app itself, which is where students are and immediately in real time after the event, we've seen feedback rates as high as 60, 70, even 90% for a lot of events and services. So I think the effectiveness comes down to, what are the goals for your organization? What is your organization trying to achieve? And then effectiveness comes down to, okay, how do we measure against those goals? If it's communication, then that's where we'll measure effectiveness. If it's student engagement, then that's where we'll measure effectiveness. I hope that answers the question there. So next, we have a question about the administration of the app. The question is, are there multiple administrators, and can you also restrict people from using the app? So I guess first I'll just quickly answer from the standpoint of the software. You have the ability to delegate access to multiple people to administer it, but that's a choice that the administrator can take. And so, Jean, I'll let you speak to your institution on that.
Yes, we have multiple departments and users on the app, faculty, staff, students. There's only 2 administrators on the app, and there's going to be a third one. Just to give you guys a side note, everybody that signs up for the app, you could take their user ID and you could give them, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, Heather, I don't remember off the top of my head, about 3 permissions. My permission, which is to the end-all be-all on the app, and or someone that's more or less going, because we had a student assistant on the app one time,
Right.
just being the person to basically answer any questions that come up in an immediate sense, real live. And all they had was just permission just to be on the app, add, switch, edit, delete. So you could have, I think it's different layers. I want to say, do you know how many layers it is?
It can be fairly granular to like specific sections or specific parts of the app. But really, I think the crux is that it's designed to make your job easier. And
Yes.
our goal genuinely is to make sure that we are there as a resource for you, not as an added burden.
Yeah, and that was key too. And I mentioned it, I alluded to it at the beginning, how I feel like I literally added on an extra staff. That's how good they are in regards to their response time. Nobody wants an extra added responsibility. Trust me, I know. But at the same time, we work with our liaison and we collaborate on a lot of different things where we have all rights to do whatever it is that we need to do on the app. But at the same time, OOHLALA is playing, it's basically part of the team. I'm going to start inviting Chanel to my team meetings, to tell you the truth.
I think it's a great idea. I'm sure she'd love to be there. So we just have a very little time left, so I'm going to jump quickly into another question. And Jean, I'm going to put this one to you. There's a question here on what do you think the difference is between this app and OrgSync or other similar platforms?
Um, I, I, I've researched other platforms when I was in the process of researching this app, so I could only talk to you about my personal opinion. OOHLALA was able to generate me as a business because of their personality. I work with students. Emotional intelligence is very, very important to me. I've never had one bad conversation with OOHLALA because ultimately all these platforms are going to have something that's unique, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best for your campus unless that's literally the only thing that you're looking for. But to me, relationship is important because I am entrusting with them access to my students. I need to be able to know that they're trustworthy, they're honest, and they're going to have my back.
I'm glad to hear that, and I know for us, like every single institution we work with is it's an important relationship, and we don't use that term lightly, relationship, because that truly is how we feel about it. Um, just so that we make sure we end on time and respect everyone's schedule, there are a couple of questions here around, what the cost of the app is and maintenance fees. What I would highly encourage you to do, if you have questions about how to implement this on your campus, the costs and how that's structured, we work off depending on the size of your school and the scope of the project. So I would encourage you to contact us at the phone number listed on the screen, and we can work out specifically what it is for your institution. Our goal, as always, and I hope, Jean, that you feel this way as well, is to make sure that we are able to cater to your students and help you do that as well. It's not at all prohibitive. It's something that's within budgetary requirements, but it really does depend on the scope of your project. I'm just looking now to see if there are any more questions, and if not, you can feel free to send questions directly to me on the email on the screen. I'm happy to forward those on to Jean. If you have particular questions about, what the implementation was like on their campus, any blowback or feedback he got from on high or from students as well, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to share it with you. But if not, I want to take this opportunity, first off, to thank everyone that's attending today for taking the time and sitting, and I really hope you learned something. Jean, I want to say thank you to you for taking time out of what I know is an incredibly busy schedule, and I really appreciate all the kind words you said. We're going to make sure we get you back more on these conference calls for taking part in sharing some of those best practices. So hopefully this is the first of many.
All right, thank you very much, and I hope that everybody has a wonderful day. Again, I'm open to answering any questions. There's a lot of different things that I wanted to talk about, but I wanted to be respectable of everybody's time and really tailor it to what I think of the app, what we're using it for, and basically how important it is to pick, I guess, an app, because there's probably a lot of them out there, that you could really build and tailor it to what your needs are on your campus.
Excellent. So on that note, you will get a copy of the slides and all of the recording. Any questions that weren't answered, I'll try and get those answered via email. Otherwise, you also feel free to get in touch via phone if you have any pending questions. Okay, on that note, I hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for attending today, and take care. Bye now.